Warnings. The following broadcast contains high-octane nightmare fuel gathered from the darkest corners of the internet. Keep your eyes on the road. Keep your doors locked. And whatever you do, don't look in the rear-view mirror. You are listening to Grave Shift, 18 Wheels to Hell.
Before we lose ourselves in the dark, a quick word for those of you behind the wheel of a rig tonight. Graveshift is a proud partner of CDL Club. Out here, your license isn't just a piece of plastic, it's your livelihood. But the road can be unpredictable, and one bad day can put everything you've built at risk. That's where CDL Club comes in. They provide the legal protection and driver-first support you need to fight citations and keep your record clean. Don't leave your future to chance. Protect your career so you can keep the wheels turning. To learn more, visit cdlclub.com. Now, back to the road.
I want you to try a little thought experiment with me. It's something we've all done, probably, 100 times, without really thinking about the mechanics of it.
Okay, I'm with you.
You're on a road trip. It's late, maybe 2, 3 in the morning. The highway is basically empty, except for you and the 18-wheelers.
Yeah, that specific time of night has a very distinct feeling. It's almost hypnotic.
Yeah.
The rhythm of the tires, the darkness.
Right. And you pull off at one of those massive travel centers, the ones that look like little cities just glowing in the middle of nowhere. You get out to stretch your legs, maybe grab a coffee that's been sitting on the burner for 4 hours, and you look out at the back lot. It's just rows and rows of idling trucks.
It's a whole sensory experience. The smell of diesel, the constant low hum from the refrigeration units. It feels like a sleeping giant.
But here's the thing that hit me while I was reading through the stack of files for today.
No.
I look at those trucks and I see commerce. I see Amazon packages. I see groceries. I don't see the people inside.
Right.
It's like the drivers are invisible. They're just part of the machine.
You've just hit on something that sociologists and criminologists talk about a lot. It's the concept of a liminal space.
A liminal space.
Yeah, the interstate highway system is the vascular system of our economy, sure. But it's also a place that exists everywhere and nowhere at the same time. If you are a long-haul trucker, your home is moving at 70 miles an hour. You are constantly passing through communities, but you are never of them.
And that anonymity, that feeling of being a ghost in the machine, for most people, it's just a lonely job. But for one specific kind of person, that anonymity is a weapon. It's a shield.
And that is exactly where we are going today. We are diving deep into the case of Bruce Delane Mendenhall. This is a man who looked at that vast, anonymous network of highways and saw a hunting ground.
We're talking about a man who earned the moniker the truck stop killer. Though I fell down a bit of a rabbit hole here. He isn't the only one with that name, is he?
No, he isn't. And it causes a lot of confusion, especially in the true crime community. The name truck stop killer is often associated with Robert Ben Rhodes, who was active earlier and had that horrific torture chamber built right into his cab.
Okay, right. I remember that case.
Mendenhall's a different beast entirely, though, equally terrifying in his own way. You might also see him referred to in older police files as the Prosty Shooter.
Which is a grim name.
It's a grim utilitarian nickname that strictly describes his victim profile and method. It's not sensitive, but it is unfortunately accurate.
It's a terrible name, but yeah, accurate. Academically, though, how do we classify him? Because he doesn't fit the Ted Bundy mold.
No, he's classified as an interstate serial killer, or sometimes a long-haul trucker killer. This is a specific subcategory of serial offender that the FBI has had to build entire new protocols to catch. Their crimes aren't defined by a neighborhood or a city.
But by a route.
Exactly, by a route.
And our mission today isn't just to tell a scary campfire story. We have a stack of sources here that go way beyond the usual Wikipedia summary. We're looking at case files, victim profiles, and this is the part that really surprised me. We have court records that were filed as recently as January 2025.
That is the key. Usually when we do these deep dives, we're looking at history. The books were closed. But with Mendenhall, The legal machinery was still grinding away just last month.
Which is just wild to me. The guy was arrested in 2007. So we're talking almost 20 years later, and there are still judges banging gavels on this case.
It speaks to the complexity of these interstate crimes. When you kill across state lines, you don't just have one trial. You have a cascade of legal battles that can span decades. So today we're going to look at how he operated, how he used the highway to hide, and the absolutely movie script level detective work that finally stopped him.
So let's get into it. I want to start with the moment the whole house of cards just fell down. Because for years, this guy was operating in total secrecy. He was invisible. And then on July 12, 2007, his luck just ran out.
I'd say it wasn't just his luck running out. It was his luck colliding with brilliance. We are in Nashville, Tennessee, specifically at a TA travel center.
And again, you have to picture that scene. It's hot, it's noisy, there are hundreds of trucks. And in the middle of all this chaos is a detective named Strut Pat Postiglione.
Now, Postiglione is a legend in Nashville. If you've ever seen the show Deadly Recall, that's him. He is the focus. And the reason he's a legend isn't just because he's a tough cop. It's because he has a memory that borders on the photographic. He remembers details from crime scenes that other people forget 5 minutes after leaving.
But on this specific day in July, he wasn't looking for Mendenhall, right? Mendenhall wasn't even a name on a suspect list.
Correct. Not even on the radar. Postiglione was there investigating the murder of a woman named Sarah Holbert. Her body had been found nearby a few weeks earlier. He was working the area, looking for leads, shaking the trees, just doing old-fashioned police work.
So he's at the truck stop, he's scanning the rows of rigs, and this is where the story gets crazy to me. He spots a truck.
He spots a specific semi-truck. Now, to you or me, a semi is a semi. But Postiglione had reviewed grainy CCTV footage from the night Sarah Holbert was murdered.
Okay.
In that footage, which was dark and really low quality, he had seen a truck. And on that truck, he noticed a custom decal.
A sticker.
Essentially, yeah. A specific design on the cab. It wasn't a standard corporate logo like Walmart or Swift. It was unique. And while standing there in the heat in the TA Travel Center, amidst hundreds of other vehicles, he sees a truck with that exact same decal.
That is, the statistical probability of that. The truck could have been in Maine. It could have been in California.
It could have been anywhere, but it was there. And Postiglione noticed it. That is the deadly recall factor. Most people would have walked right past it. He didn't.
So he sees the truck. What does he do? Does he call in a SWAT team?
No. And this is where the procedural tension really spikes. He doesn't have a warrant. He doesn't have probable cause yet. Just a hunch based on a sticker and a blurry video. If he calls it in, the truck might leave before backup even arrives.
So he just walks up.
He decides to approach the vehicle himself.
Just knocks on the door?
Just walks up and knocks on the door. It's a moment of extreme vulnerability for a detective. You don't know who is in that sleeper cab. You don't know if they're armed. You know nothing.
So he knocks. Mendenhall is inside. And this is the moment, the real sliding doors moment, where everything changes. Mendenhall opens the door.
He opens the door, and because he opens it voluntarily, we enter the legal territory of the Plainview Doctrine. This basically means that if a police officer is standing where they are legally allowed to be, and they see evidence of a crime with their own eyes, they don't need a warrant to seize it or make an arrest.
Okay, so Mendenhall swings the door open, and what does Postiglione see?
It wasn't subtle.
Yeah.
It wasn't a tiny speck of DNA that you'd need a lab to find. Postiglione looks at the interior of the driver's side door, and he sees fresh blood.
Just smeared there.
Smeared on the door, right there, visible to the naked eye. And then his eyes scan the rest of the cab. He looks at the steering wheel. There's blood on the steering wheel. And then he looks down at Bruce Mendenhall's feet.
Don't tell me.
There was blood on his shoes.
I have to pause here. You're a serial killer. You have presumably just committed a violent act. You open the door to a police officer, and you haven't even wiped your shoes.
It speaks to a few things. First, probably exhaustion. These guys drive for hours on end. Fatigue is a major factor. But I think more importantly, it speaks to arrogance. Mendenhall had been doing this for a long time. He felt invisible.
Yeah.
He likely didn't view himself as a suspect. He was just a trucker. Why would a cop notice the blood on his shoes? He probably thought he could talk his way out of it, or that the cop was just there to tell him to move his rig.
That arrogance was his undoing, because once Postiglione sees the blood, the game is over.
Exactly. That visual confirmation is the smoking gun, or in this case, the smoking door. Postiglione detains him immediately, and once they have him in custody, they can get a warrant to tear that truck apart.
And when they did, I mean, we need to talk about what they found. Because it wasn't just a vehicle, it was a mobile crime scene.
It was a rolling killing field. That's the phrase that stuck with me from the case files. When the forensic teams went in, the inventory of what was inside that sleeper cab was just a roadmap of sadism.
Let's break it down. First, the weapon.
They found a .22 caliber rifle.
Now, I'm not a gun expert, but isn't a .22 kind of small? I usually hear about 9mm or .45s in these kinds of stories.
It is small, yes. It doesn't have the stopping power of a larger round. But think about the environment Mendenhall operated in. Truck stops are loud, engines are idling, air brakes are hissing, tires are popping all the time. A .22 rifle doesn't boom like a shotgun. It makes a sharp crack or a pop.
It's quieter.
Much quieter. If you shoot someone with a .22 in a noisy parking lot, people might mistake it for a backfire or a tool dropping on the pavement. It was a practical, calculated choice for his specific environment.
That is just chillingly practical. And then there was the kit.
Right. And this destroys any argument of heat of the moment or self-defense. They found a trash bag containing bloody clothing, which likely belonged to victims. But alongside that, they found sex toys, handcuffs, and latex gloves.
The gloves and the detail that gets me. That says, I am planning to do this, and I am planning to not leave fingerprints.
Exactly. It shows forensic awareness. He was trying to be careful. He knew how to avoid leaving his own biology behind, even if he was somehow careless with the victim's blood on his door. It's a strange contradiction.
But the most damning things they found, and the things that really blew this case wide open, were the trophies.
Yes. They found personal items, an identification card, a cell phone, and an ATM card. And these belonged to a woman named Karma Purpura.
And this brings us back to the timeline, because Karma wasn't a cold case from 10 years ago?
No. And this is where the interstate nature of the crime just hits you in the face. Karma Purpura had gone missing from Indianapolis, Indiana.
Okay, Indianapolis.
She went missing on July 11th.
And Mendenhall was arrested in Nashville on July 12th.
The very next day, he had picked her up in Indy, likely killed her somewhere along the route, and driven straight to Nashville with her ID just sitting in his cab.
That proximity is terrifying. If Postiglione hadn't stopped him that day.
If he hadn't stopped him, Mendenhall would have fueled up and driven to Georgia or Florida or Texas. Karma Purpura would have just been a missing person report in Indiana with 0 leads. The Nashville police would have never known she existed. The link would have been completely broken.
It really shows how fragile the whole system is. He was just moving faster than the information could travel.
That's the crux of it. But the forensics really sealed the deal. They didn't just have the ID. Ballistics tests later matched that .22 rifle found in the cab to bullets recovered from other victims. It was the mechanical link that tied the murders together.
So we have the arrest, we have the truck, but I want to zoom out for a second. We talk about the liminal space of the highway. How does the FBI even begin to track someone like this? You mentioned they have a special classification.
Yes, this falls under the Highway Serial Killings Initiative, or HSK.
HSK. What is that exactly? Is it a task force? A database?
It's a bit of both. It started as a realization, really. In the early 2000s, analysts began noticing a pattern. Bodies, mostly women, were being dumped along interstate corridors. But because they were found in different jurisdictions, one in a ditch in Oklahoma, one behind a truck stop in Texas, the local sheriffs weren't talking to each other.
Right.
They all thought they had isolated local murders on their hands.
The sheriff in Oklahoma isn't calling the sheriff in Texas about a Jane Doe unless he has a very specific reason to.
Exactly. So the FBI created the HSK initiative to act as a central nervous system. They started feeding all these cases into a national database to look for patterns, for timelines. Okay, we have a body here on the 12th and another body there on the 14th. Which trucking routes connect those 2 points?
That sounds like an impossible logic puzzle. There must be thousands of trucks on that route.
Millions, actually. It's incredibly difficult work. But Mendenhall is the poster child for why it's necessary. His modus operandi was defined by what we call jurisdiction hopping.
Explain that. What does that mean?
It's simple, and it's brilliant in a twisted way. He picks up a victim in State A, he kills them in the truck, maybe while he's driving through State B, and he dumps the body in State C.
So the crime scene, the truck is already in State D by the time the body is even found?
Precisely. So now you have a victim with no ID in a state she's never been to. You have no crime scene because the truck is gone, and you have no witnesses because everyone at the truck stop left within an hour. It creates this massive information gap for law enforcement.
And he knew this. This was a conscious strategy.
Oh, absolutely. He understood it. He used the confusion of law enforcement, the jurisdictional boundaries, as cover.
And his choice of victims workload right into this, too. He wasn't snatching people who would be on the 6 o'clock news that same night.
No. He targeted what law enforcement, what they term high-risk lifestyle victims. Sex workers, hitchhikers, women who were perhaps living transient lives themselves at these truck stops.
I hate that term high risk because it feels like victim blaming, but from a predator's perspective, it's a calculation, isn't it?
It is a cynical, brutal calculation. He is betting that these women are estranged from their families. He is betting that if they go missing, people will assume they just moved on or got arrested or maybe relapsed. He is counting on society not caring enough to look for them immediately. He exploits their vulnerability to buy himself time.
And yet, despite all that calculation, he kept the trophies. We talked about Karma's ID. Why do that? If you're so smart, if you're playing this 4D chess with jurisdiction lines, why keep the debit card?
That's where the serial killer psychology overrides the criminal mastermind logic. It's not about being smart, it's about the compulsion. Expert analysis on trophies suggests it's all about reliving the event.
Like a souvenir.
It's worse than a souvenir. It's a way to continue possessing the victim. Having Karma Purpura's ID in the cab meant he still had power over her. He could look at it, touch it, and trigger the memory of the crime. That psychological high was worth the risk of getting caught. And in the end, thank God it was, because that ID is what tied him to her disappearance immediately.
Let's talk about the women.
Okay.
Because we've talked about the mechanics, but these were human beings, and the legal system has been fighting for them for a very, very long time.
It has. And this brings us to, I guess, Section 4 of our deep dive, the victims and the convictions. This is where we really see the result of Postiglione's work that day.
Let's start with Sarah Hulbert. She was the one Postiglione was looking for originally.
Right. Sarah was found shot to death at a truck stop in Nashville back in June 2007. She was the reason Postiglione was even at the TA Travel Center that day. The whole thing started with her.
Did Mendenhall confess to her murder?
He did. Post-arrest, under pressure, with all the evidence mounting, he confessed to killing Sarah. He was found guilty in 2010 and sentenced to life in prison.
Then there was Samantha Winters.
This case is particularly heartbreaking. Her body was also found in June 2007, this time in Lebanon, Tennessee. The way she was found, she had been stuffed into a trash can at a truck stop.
God. Just thrown away like garbage.
It just shows the total dehumanization. She was shot execution style. Mendenhall was found guilty for her murder in 2018. That's another life sentence.
But the case that really brings us to the present day, the reason we are doing this deep dive now, is Karma Purpura.
Yes. We mentioned her ID was found in the truck back in 2007.
But they didn't find her body then.
No. And this is a nightmare for prosecutors. You have the ID, you have the blood in the truck that matches her DNA, but you don't have the victim. Without a body, it is very, very hard to prove murder. You can prove kidnapping maybe, or theft, but murder is a much higher bar.
So when was she finally found?
Her skeletal remains weren't discovered until 2011, 4 years later, off I-65 in Kentucky.
So, okay. Found in 2011. Why was there a sentencing hearing in January 2025? That's a 14-year gap from finding the body and an 18-year gap from the actual crime.
Seems absurd, doesn't it? But you have to look at the context. By 2011, Mendenhall was already serving life for Sarah Hulbert. Then the Samantha Winters trial happened in 2018, another life sentence. The legal system moves slowly, and when the defendant is already locked up for life, new trials often get pushed to the back burner. It's a resource issue.
So why do it at all? If he's in prison forever, why spend the money and the time to try him for karma?
That's a valid question. It's called prosecutorial discretion. But in this case, the prosecutors and, more importantly, the family felt it was essential. It wasn't about keeping Mendenhall off the street. He was already gone. It was about the record. It was about standing in a courtroom and saying, Karma Purpura matters. We know what happened to her, and we are holding you accountable for her specific death.
It's about truth.
It's about truth and closure for her family. And finally, in January 2025, that verdict came down. Guilty.
And the sentence for that?
65 years.
Which is, I mean, he's not going to live another 65 years.
No. It's symbolic in terms of time, but it's very concrete in terms of law. It acts as a final lock on the door. Let's say, hypothetically, 20 years from now, some new legal technicality overturns the Nashville conviction, and then another technicality overturns the Lebanon conviction. He would still have this 65-year sentence in Kentucky to serve.
Yeah.
It ensures he is never, ever getting out.
But those are just the three we know about, the ones with convictions. There are more names, aren't there?
There are, and this is the darkest part of the story, really. We call this section suspected and uncharged. The pattern suggests his rolling killing field covered a lot more ground than just those 3 women.
Who else is he linked to?
Well, there's Lucille Greta Carter in Birmingham, Alabama. She was found in a trash bin with a plastic bag taped over her head. Mendenhall was actually charged with her murder initially.
But no trial.
No. And this goes right back to what we just discussed. The state of Alabama looked at the situation. Mendenhall was already serving life in Tennessee. A capital murder trial cost millions of dollars. They made the difficult decision to not proceed, reasoning that justice was already being served by his incarceration elsewhere.
It makes sense financially, but it feels, I don't know, unsatisfying.
It leaves a hole in the record, certainly. Then there is Sherry Drinkard in Lake Station, Indiana, found dead at a truck stop, and Deborah Ann Glover in Suwanee, Georgia.
The Georgia one. Didn't they have physical evidence like receipts?
They did. Investigators found fuel receipts that placed Mendenhall's truck in that specific area of Georgia at the exact time Glover was killed. Again, placing the predator at the scene.
And Jennifer Smith in Bucksnort, Tennessee back in 2005.
And that one pushes the timeline back 2 full years before his arrest. 2005. That gap between 2005 and 2007 is terrifying. How many times did he drive from Nashville to Indy? Or to Chicago? Or to Dallas?
It's a map of grief. Alabama, Indiana, Georgia, Tennessee, Kentucky. He was everywhere.
That is the nature of the long-haul trucking profession, warped by a psychopathic mind. He was everywhere, and therefore he was nowhere.
So let's check the current status. Where is Bruce Mendenhall today?
He is currently in the custody of the Tennessee Department of Correction. He's likely housed at the Turney Center Industrial Complex or a similar maximum security facility. He's not going anywhere.
And I want to clarify something because I saw a thread on Reddit about this the other day. People seem to think he's on death row.
He is not. That is a significant correction of the record. Initially, because these were such heinous crimes, the death penalty was on the table in some jurisdictions. But in the trials that occurred, juries or plea arrangements resulted in life sentences. So he is serving consecutive life sentences. And with the 2025 edition of the 65-year sentence for Karmapura, the outcome is the same. He will die in prison of natural causes.
So we've covered the arrest, the horrific inventory of that truck, the heartbreaking list of victims, and the final justice served just this year in 2025. When you step back and look at this entire saga, what is the big takeaway for you?
For me, it's the synthesis of 2 things. First, it's the perversion of the mundane. A semi-truck is the most boring, common thing on the road. We don't even look at them twice. And Mendenhall turned that mundane object into a literal chamber of horrors. He hid in plain sight.
It really makes you look at the highway differently.
And the second thing is the fragility of the system. I keep going back to Sergeant Postiglione.
The decal.
The decal. Think about the odds. If Postiglione had blinked, if he had been looking at his phone for a second, if he had decided to go get a coffee before walking the lot.
Or if Mendenhall hadn't opened the door. If he'd just stayed quiet.
Right, or just cracked the window and said, "What do you want?" Postiglione couldn't have seen his shoes. He couldn't have seen the interior door panel. He would have had no probable cause. He would have had to walk away.
And Mendenhall would have just driven off.
He would have fueled up, driven out of that TA travel center, and continued killing. He would have crossed into Georgia or Alabama, and the pattern would have just continued, maybe for years.
It's terrifying to think that it all hinged on one guy paying attention.
It highlights how important that individual human element still is. We have databases, we have the HSK initiative, we have cameras, but ultimately it took a detective trusting his gut and his incredible memory to stop a monster.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I have a thought I want to leave everyone with, and it's kind of a heavy one.
Go ahead.
Next time you are on a road trip, you're driving down the interstate, maybe going on vacation, you're in the lift lane, you pass a convoy of 18-wheelers in the right lane. You know that feeling, the wind shakes your car, the wheels are spinning right at your eye level. It's loud, it's powerful.
It's the heartbeat of the road.
Exactly. But think about the numbers. There are millions of trucks moving across this country every single day. The system is designed for speed, it's designed for efficiency, it's designed for anonymity. The driver is just a logbook number moving from state line to state line.
And most of them are just hardworking people doing a really tough job.
Absolutely. 99.9% of them are. But Mendenhall was just one man in one truck, and he operated for years. You have to ask yourself, in that sea of anonymity, how many other rolling killing fields are currently passing us in the right lane? How many others are out there right now headed for the next state line?
That is a chilling thought, but a valid one.
Yeah.
We may never know the true number.
Sleep tight, everyone, and keep your eyes open. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.
Stay safe out there.
We'll see you next time.
Keep the shiny side up and the shadows in your rear view. You've survived another grave shift. Over and out.